Chapter 1: The Visitor. My grandmother was not a superstitious woman. She was a retired school teacher who read 3 newspapers a day, kept meticulous records of everything, and had no patience for what she called dramatic nonsense. She lived alone in the same house for 51 years after my grandfather died, and she was sharp and clear-minded until the very end. I tell you this because what she told me 3 weeks before she died is not the kind of thing I can dismiss as confusion or wishful thinking. She was completely lucid when she told it to me, and she told it matter-of-factly, the way she told everything, as a simple account of what had happened, without embellishment. She said that, in the last few months, she had been having a visitor, not a person. She clarified immediately, anticipating my concern. Not anyone from the neighborhood or anyone she had let in. Something that came on its own, always at the same time, just after 3 a.m., always on a Thursday. She would wake to find it standing at the foot of her bed. She described it as a dark shape, roughly the height of a person, but without clear features, no face she could make out, no hands, just a presence that occupied the space at the foot of her bed and stood completely still. She said it did not frighten her. She said the first time it appeared she had expected to be frightened and was surprised to find she wasn't. It felt, she said, like someone keeping watch, like someone sitting up with the sick, the way people used to do. I asked her how many times it had come. She thought about it and said 11 times. Always Thursday, always just after 3 a.m., always the same, standing at the foot of the bed, completely still, leaving before dawn, without her seeing it go. I asked if she had told anyone else. She said no. She said people would think she was losing her mind, and she wasn't, and she didn't want the argument. She told me because she thought I would listen without arguing. She was right. She died on a Thursday morning. 3 weeks later, my mother, who had stayed the night, told me she had seemed completely peaceful. She had gone to sleep the night before and simply didn't wake up. My mother said the only strange thing was that when she went to check on her just after 3 a.m., she had found my grandmother awake and sitting up in bed, looking at the foot of the bed with an expression my mother had never seen on her face before. Not fear, something else, something that looked, my mother said, like recognition. She was gone by morning. Peaceful, the doctor said. Natural causes. I've thought about those 11 Thursdays a lot since then. I've thought about what it means to have something keep watch over you in the dark, and whether it matters what that something is. My grandmother didn't think it did. By the end, I don't think she was wrong. Chapter 2: The Recording. My father was an amateur sound recordist. Not professionally. He had a day job in insurance, but he spent his weekends and evenings recording what he called field audio, natural soundscapes, empty buildings, quiet places. He had hundreds of hours of recordings on hard drives going back 20 years, rain on different surfaces, wind through different kinds of trees, the particular silence of a library after closing time. He found something meditative about it, and he found something interesting in the idea that sound could document a place as precisely as a photograph could. He recorded the house we grew up in dozens of times over the years. Every room, different seasons, different times of day. He said a house had a sound signature the way a person had a voice, and he wanted to document ours before my siblings and I were grown, and it changed into something quieter. He died 4 years ago. Me going through his things, my sister found the hard drives, and we spent an evening listening to some of the recordings, the kitchen on a Sunday morning, the backyard in summer, our voices as children echoing through rooms that felt very far away. It was painful in the way that unexpected recordings of the dead always are. Then my sister found a recording labeled only with a date, November 14th, 2019, and a single word, study. We recognized the study immediately from the sound, the particular creak of the desk chair, the hum of the old desktop computer he kept there. The recording was 47 minutes long, and we skipped through it mostly in silence, my father occasionally shifting in his chair, the sounds of a quiet house at night, nothing unusual. At the 41-minute mark, my father's voice said clearly, "There's something here," not to anyone, not on a phone call, just a statement into the quiet room, calm and factual, the way he said everything. Then silence, then the sound of the chair pushing back, footsteps to the door opening. The recording continued for another 6 minutes in an empty room before it ended. We played it 3 times. We could not identify what had made him say it. There was no sound on the recording that preceded the statement, no creak, no movement, no voice, nothing that any of us could point to and say that that's what he heard. Just silence, and then his voice saying there was something there, and then him leaving the room. My sister asked me what I thought he had heard. I told her I didn't know. I told her the honest thing, which is that I've listened to that 6 minutes of empty room more times than I can count, trying to hear what he heard, and I never have. Whatever it was, it didn't make a sound, at least not one the recorder could pick up. Sami Walmer, Teres Munji. Chapter 3. The Address. I found the letter in a box of my great-aunt's belongings that had been stored in my parents' attic for 30 years without being opened. She had died before I was born, and the box had simply moved from house to house with my parents, the way unexamined things do, present at every address, never opened, never discussed. When my parents finally cleared the attic last spring, my mother handed the box to me because I was the family archivist, the one who kept track of documents and photographs and things that needed to be kept. The box contained what you would expect: old photographs, letters, documents. I went through it carefully over an afternoon, setting things aside to be scanned and preserved. Most of it was ordinary. The letter was at the bottom, sealed in an envelope, addressed in my great-aunt's handwriting to a name I didn't recognize. I shouldn't have opened it. It was addressed to someone else, but the person it was addressed to had almost certainly been dead for decades, and my great-aunt had been dead for 32 years, and it had been sitting unopened in a box in an attic, so I opened it. The letter was 2 pages long. It was dated March 1987. My great-aunt would have been 63. It was addressed to a woman named Eleanor, and from context I gathered they had been close friends. The letter had the intimacy of long correspondence, references to shared history, the shorthand of people who have known each other for a very long time. Most of the letter was ordinary, news about family members, plans for a visit, observations about her garden. But the last paragraph stopped me. She wrote that she had been having strange dreams, that in the dreams she was standing in a house she didn't recognize, looking at a box on a shelf. She wrote that in the dream she always knew the box contained something important, something that needed to be passed on, but that she could never open it in the dream. She would reach for it and wake up. She wrote that she had had the dream 11 times. She wrote, "I know this sounds like nothing, but I have the feeling that it isn't nothing, and that someone will find this letter eventually who will understand why I wrote it down." Then she signed her name, and the box she had been storing this letter in had been sitting on a shelf in my parents' attic for 30 years. I had found it the same week I had been clearing out shelves. I don't know if she ever sent the letter. I don't know if Eleanor ever read it. I don't know what she thought the box contained, or why she thought someone would need to find it. I know that I found it. I know that she somehow knew someone would. I don't know what to do with that. The letter is on my desk right now. I've read it 20 times. I keep thinking about that last line, the feeling that it isn't nothing. I think she was right. I just don't know yet what it is.